Casa mwendo usife moyo. Casa mwendo usife moyo. Yes, yes, yes. You never, never stop moving. Um, I think it's highly recommended that we keep moving, right? Hey, it's your friend. I hear you, man. I hear you loud and clear. You speak in silence. You speak with your fingers. I get it. I appreciate it. I appreciate the fact that when I speak, I know somebody's listening because, yeah, our voices never go out in vain. I hope we can listen to one another each day. Take time to listen. I'm taking time to listen to you in this episode, number 72. Yeah, 72, my friend. We started together somewhere in one. I don't know, 72 adds up very fast, but that's how life is. You wake up one day, you realize, wow, how did we get here? Because our stories looks very infinite. They look like they never have an ending. Because we are complicated human beings. So complicated that the book I shared with you, the stories or the diary of Anne Frank, a very young girl during the Nazis' occupation of many countries, and specifically for her and the family, is their hideout in Netherlands. And my wife the other day told me she's been to that museum. It's quite chilling how that family lived that long or were hiding from life for their lives and from the death camps for that long. I think it was more than 2 years, maybe close to that. And this young girl speaks from a very interesting point of view. And I'm almost taking, I think I'm getting a hard copy of a book. I promised myself that because when you listen to young somebody, young anybody, you really appreciate their view of life. And I think Anne Frank has made me really appreciate life on a deeper level. It's a book I've ignored and I'm not regretting. I think maybe it's the right time for me to read it. There could be more that tells of people who have told stories from the dark corners of this universe. People remember the story of, is it Molala, the young Afghanistanian? I've read a book of a young man during the genocide in Rwanda. You can read some of these things, people just on the ground zero of massacre, mayhem, the stories from the places, the ground zero of death, so to speak. They are quite chilling. They really make you appreciate this space I'm sitting in, this platform I have. I hope I'm writing my own diary, so to speak, thanks to Anne Frank. I think she's taught me to. She wanted to be a journalist. She wanted to be a journalist, and maybe that's how I'm starting to see that we have something in common with that young girl whom I never met, but I'm meeting her through the voice and the book. She wanted to be one of the, I got to say, at that age, the way she writes, the way she articulates, the way she has that reflective mind is quite something I'm appreciating. So for me today, I want to go back a little bit to 2022, not 2012, heading to London. And there's a story that speaks to me, and it's about a 20-year-old Ugandan. After I've laid some groundwork for what I call the, the European or the Eurocentric project that has been rolled out to humiliate and pretty much colonize and almost tell women of color predominantly, talking of the southern sphere and the southern globe, that they don't belong in the new world order of sports. Annette Negesa is a very interesting story. I think I share a little bit of it in my last episode, just hinting. But I wasn't, it wasn't enough for me. So as I've done all the time, I try to read more about these athletes. She was an upcoming middle distance runner. She was a national champion in Uganda in that year of, in fact, 2020, 2011, 2020, 2012. She was looking forward to going to London Olympics. And then she received a phone call from the governing body of World Athletics saying that she cannot go to London because her T was high. Testosterone levels were not incompatible with what the World Athletic Standard has set. I think there's a very strange scale. I was into science, and I think the male testosterone level that is normal, they say, is between 7, I don't know, to 12. For women, it's like point something to around, I don't know, the scale is kind of minuscule. Comparatively, women have a lot of testosterone. I mean, we know that. But to see those numbers are fascinating. So Annette Negesa apparently got a call from this doctor that suggested to her that she can't go. So Annette went back home to her house and she was devastated. I don't know how people view life, but athletics can be there's a lot of work going into Olympics. I've talked about Olympics of Paris, and we've seen athletes, and we wonder what it takes to get there. It takes 4 years of a lot of work. So she was preparing to go to London, and she gets this phone call, and this phone call pretty much tells her she's not going because her body, her femininity, does not measure up to the femininity that has been set. So she's an intersex. I found this interesting. Intersex people have external women or feminine genitalia, but they say inside there's what they call some man components, or some man, what they call is it DDS? What is it? Something about development, something in the sex organs of their bodies seems they are not completely 100% women, which is something I didn't know about. So anyway, she was recommended that, so she's told she's not going, and so she's trying to find out her options of how she can make the Olympic team. There are two options. If you are somebody with maybe intersex, or somebody whose testosterone is so high, you have two options. Either you go surgery, which is quite intrusive, or you go drug path. You use these drugs to suppress your testosterone so they can meet the standard expected of a woman. There you go, another experiment, because this is new for athletes, I think. I don't know how that has been used in the athletic world. I'm just speaking of athletics. So given the fact that this is how she received the call, she loved the sport so much. This is what I'm learning from her, that she decides, okay, what am I going to do? So another phone call followed, and this is very interesting, that she was recommended to go to a surgeon in Kampala, Uganda, where she had surgery, and she didn't even know she was having surgery. Okay, let me back up. When Negesa had received this phone call, the options were not very clear to her. She's 20 years old. I don't know, this is interesting. There's no local advice. There's less information coming through, and so so somebody suggested to her she can go to a local surgeon in Kampala and see what they'll tell her. According to Annette Negesa, she went there, and with less information, she was subjected to this surgery. I don't think whether it was with her consent or she was put out. And then she says that she woke up the next day, she had scars in her belly. And there was no post-operation follow-up to see how she's going to be, her well-being. And she started suffering from other things that come with surgery, that intrusive surgery. And when she speaks, I think she finally spoke about her condition and how she went through, was the fact that one of the things you should realize quickly is that we are dealing with Uganda. Let me just put Uganda in the context of anything sexual. Is the most intolerant country in the world when it comes to people who are different sexually. LGBTQ, I think, was banned. I think it's been criminalized. So it's a country with very low tolerance for people who are different. And I'm just talking of sex. You know where I'm going with this. Anything has to do with Uganda is notorious. I think it's been listed as one of the worst countries to live in. If you have anybody who is in LGBTQ category, or those categories of human beings. So when our case came into the limelight in Uganda, not only was she ostracized, not only did she go what do you call non-persona granta, where you are pretty much rejected by your people, she had to go into exile at 20 years old. It's a very sad story, isn't it? Because she's gone through surgery. Our country has pretty much rejected her. The athletic body within Uganda doesn't want to deal with that, because now she doesn't fit into the social settings of Uganda, and she's an athlete who has to conform to certain standards within the athletic world, and she's 20 years old. So what does she do? Likely enough, and this is very interesting for me, she gets an asylum to go to Germany. And I think she finds a family there that kind of gives her that protection. And now she's able to speak from there. And one of the things that really troubles me is how inhumane this story gets for me. That she says that now at her age, I think she's like 30 right now, because her athletic career was pretty much shattered after 2012. And not only 2012, we have the whole rigorous and stringent rules that have been put in place to pretty much weed out any intersex or people with high testosterone and people who look just different. Because sometimes, how do you know they're testosterone until you just look at them and you say, you fit the profile. You need to be stop and freak in America. You're black, so we'll use that. So in athletics, it's not that you're just black. You're just too masculine. You're too muscular. You are female, but you're too masculine in looks. So there you go. So that's how they weed them out, so to speak. So it's becoming a very new form for me of you remember the back in the days where women maybe who are disabled were sterilized without their consent, and you have the Tuskegee in Alabama, where blacks were being experimented with a syphilis injection. I said yesterday or the other day that this has a whole echoes. It echoes slavery, chattel. It has these echoes of the past, even in the sporting arena. Adolf Hitler could not welcome blacks. Let's not talk about the Jews who are exterminated. So this narrative, the Eurocentric narrative of people of color, is not new. It's just being played out. It's being played out, and the victims seems not to be getting any headlines. They might get headlines because maybe it's a short period we are getting excited about, like Casa Semenya I talked about yesterday. So Negesa lives in Germany right now, and her story to me enforces what I've been trying to research, that we live in a very interesting sporting world where it's very anti-black, if I may use that word, and I'm not using it lightly. I'm very intentional with it. That conformity to Eurocentric thinking, the white femininity, is the standard, and and I think for me, the young competitor from Poland, whom I talked about in my last episode, who almost was wailing and crying of unfairness because the top three medalists from Brazil were all African, followed by the next three being European. And she just said, "Oh my goodness," I'm just paraphrasing, "these are males we are running with. Look at their bodies. Look at how they look. She's just saying this, and the white man somewhere in Europe, in some of those AC high top offices, must have been listening, because they said, "Oh yeah, the young, good old blonde lady from Poland just spoke, and she's gonna we are going to reinforce the whiteness into sport, because that's what it is enforcing and making sure is as wise as it gets when it comes to athletics. Because the story of Anna Negesa, for me, as much as she gets refuge in a European country of Germany, speaks to the decay, and not decay, is the decline of humanity in sports. Is either sexualized and is being looked at as something you exploit. It's a monetary issue. It's a monetary profession, which is what it is. Doping in Kenya because people wanna get money, so you wanna enhance that. And now you have this idea of eliminating competition because they don't fit into that. So this equal opportunity in sports is not applicable to people of color. And if it is to be scrutinized and being exposed. And I like the fact that there's advocates out there. I think one of the things that I watch a CNN thing talking about Negesa, Annette Negesa of Ugandan lady, is that there's still hope for me. And I think that's why I'll keep maybe sharing with you some of these stories. There's an activist who's a lawyer. She's a researcher. Her name is Piyonsni Mitra. I think she's from India. She has stood shoulder to shoulder with these women. She stood shoulder to shoulder with Semenya Casta, whom I talked about, and our struggles. And I think I like the fact that even she stood next to the sprinter from India, Duty Njad. I think that's her name, 100 meters sprinter from India. And I think I like what she says here, and I'll read what she says. She said, "What happened to Annette, the Ugandan, is very dangerous." It's not isolated, by the way, because there's another lady maybe I'll talk about in my next episode, if time allows. She says, "What happened to Annette is dangerous, and it happened because she wanted to compete." The reason she's saying this is because her surgery, Annette Negesa seems to have had no choices. She wanted to compete in London. So she takes the course of what you call, some people like say, "Oh, surgery, just do the surgery, take care of that, and I'll go compete." She thought it was that easy. Now, one of the things I didn't tell you about is what her body, she's gone through a lot of depressions. She's had a lot of aches in her joints. And one of the things they talk about is headaches. Because let's put it this way, I don't know how surgery works, my friend. But if there's somebody in this family who has heard from somebody who is my daughter or somebody, surgery is the last course of action anybody can take. And when people go, whatever surgeons go in there, as good as they are, they really don't know how complex the body is. They might go there saying, "Oh, we're going to just go there." By the time it is all said and done, sometimes it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for Annette Negesa. She talks of she's battled a lot of persistent headaches, which she didn't have before. Because some of these things in the body, like we know, regulate how the body operates. And so when you invade or intrude into a body of a young woman at 20, our consent was maybe minimal. And let me say this, we know of people stealing body parts around the world. I remember a story of a Nigerian doctor in London who was put in jail for a while. The story of how they use locals and how they exploit them to almost kidnap them or abduct them to these European countries and lie to them that, hey, they are going in here for certain things. They put them out and they just do surgery and take some parts and sell them to somebody else. I'm not surprised. we live in that kind of a world. There's some dark side of this world that we need just to talk about. And for me, Annette Negesa speaks to that. That when we hear that somebody say it is dangerous, I think for me, it is very exploitative, it's inhumane. It has a component of racism. It has a component of exploiting the poor and the young people who don't have enough knowledge. And the gatekeepers in this glamorous sporting world are trying to purify the sport to fit their narrative of a dominant race. And it is being played out before our own eyes. So I'm glad we have activists. I'm glad I can mention Pioncini Mitra. I can say that for sure. And I think for me, I'll keep just trying to highlight some of these plight and these stories because they speak to the fact that as much as I enjoy sports, there's a dark side to it. And it's a dark side that I speak with humility, with a sense that I hope I bring dignity and I bring value that has been devalued. So Annette Negesa, she's not alone, is she? Because we have people, we have Germany as a country who've welcomed her, and she's trying to regain her footing. She's trying to get herself back, though her body is not the same. Let's put it that way. Once you do surgery, you're never the same. It's a God-given body. It is a complicated mechanism. It's strange how we take it for granted. And we think science is going to just go in there and fix it. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it ruins it. Sometimes it just takes it from what it was to where some of these young athletes are right now. I think she's the only one who took surgery, and the price has been very high for her. I wish her well. This was dedicated to Annette Negesa, the Ugandan lady who never went to London. And the Queen was there, I guess. How white is that? I'm kind of sad. Really sad. Maybe I'll end there. Wish you well, Annette Negesa. You deserve better. We let you down.